It's simple. If you want to create better work or stand out from most other photographers, you have to do what most of them are not willing to do. It's simple, but not so easy. I didn't get serious about photography until later in life. Before that, I had never seen myself as creative, let alone an artist. I thought, how could someone like me ever produce anything substantial or have my work stand out from everyone else's? I needed to find a way to stack the odds in my favor. Creating or showing your work involves putting yourself out there. Even for some of the most successful photographers, I think there's often a fear that your work won't be good enough. Until I became an adult, I wasn't interested in art or other creative pursuits. When I discovered photography, it was almost like an awakening. But because I never saw myself as creative, I didn't think my work could measure up to what most other photographers were doing. But I did have one thing going for me. Deep down, I felt if I focused and put in the time, I'd find some way to succeed. And if you want to surpass most other photographers, deep down is where you need to start too. While I never saw myself as creative, I did see myself as analytical. As an amateur photographer, rather than taking photos of random things I like, I found I worked better when I had a theme or a project. That allowed me to develop an idea and put in the research to learn as much as I could about my subject. I had been a journalist and I taught broadcast journalism for a while, so I understood the importance of telling a story, and this approach allowed me to go deeper into that story. Going deep requires time and focus. It brings new ideas the more you work at it. Once you dive in, you can move beyond the obvious stuff that everyone else is doing. Working this way allows you to see things others haven't noticed. You see possibilities they overlooked. You've put in the time and attention, and it shows. With this approach, you can really get to know your subject and express what you see in your own unique way. It will make your photos powerful and memorable. And that's what separates great photographs from everything else. So here's a challenge for you. Pick one subject that interests you right now. It could be anything, a breathtaking landscape, it could be the people in your community, or even your own family. Commit to spending a year on it. I know that sounds like a long time, but it'll be worth it. If you're not exactly sure what subject to pick, just start something, get some momentum going. You can refine it as you go along. For the next year, make as many photographs as you can. Push yourself to experiment and discover what works and what doesn't. Find the best way to capture the essence of your chosen subject. This new approach may be very different from what you're used to, and that can be scary. Stepping into the unknown always is. But taking the easy path rarely leads to producing anything substantial. It's only natural right now to doubt your ability to create something special. I used to teach writing, and one of the first things I would tell students is not to worry about your first draft. Concentrate on putting in the work. No one has to see your first draft but you. It's the same idea here. Just get started. You may take hundreds or even thousands of photos. Many of them will suck. But you don't have to show anyone your first attempts. This is your chance to experiment and refine your work without any judgment. If you can stick with this for a year, when you look back, you'll be amazed by what you've accomplished. You'll have a body of work that a year ago seemed unimaginable. Which brings us to step 2. What you're about to hear will sound unconventional, but for me, it changed everything. It gained me enough recognition to start selling my work all over the world. I started looking at photographers whose work I really admired, and I realized that most of them didn't seem to have that many published images, not even the ones with lengthy careers. I used to think that every time I went out with my camera, I had to bring home something good. But when I looked at the work that some of these photographers released in a year, it wasn't thousands of photos, not even 100. Most often it seemed to be more like 10 or 12 images, or even just 8, in a year. I realized I was putting way too much pressure on myself. I stopped thinking that every photo outing had to produce something amazing. If I could just make 8 to 12 great images a year, that seemed much more attainable. So that became my new goal, and that should be your goal too. Focus on 8 to 12 great images by year's end. If you want to go for 12, that's 1 image per month. As you explore your subject, you'll make mistakes. Some things won't pan out. Some things will be disasters, but you'll still have plenty of time to get your 8 to 12 images. Now, it won't be easy to cut everything you've shot down to such a small number, which brings us to step 3. By the end of the year, you'll have something you can be proud of. But first, how do we get your collection down to 8 to 12 great images? You may want your series to have a cohesive theme or look. You could also just focus on individual images that you feel are your best work. If you're in the cohesive theme camp, you'll have to sacrifice some great photographs. It's often needed so the series makes more sense or the work is better as a whole. At this point, it can help to bring in someone else whose opinion you trust. Now, when it comes to putting your work out there, you've probably noticed that people are not always so kind on the internet. But keep in mind that the ones who criticize you or even make fun of you are too scared to do what you're trying to do. They've already given up and they've accepted the fact that they are going to be mediocre. They don't like when anyone else tries to rise above that. That said, people on Instagram are usually positive and kinder to photographers. When posting, it helps to provide some context for your work. And here's where setting your goal at 8 to 12 images per year puts you ahead of almost everyone else. Most photographers post way too many photos online. I'd like you to consider only posting your best work. And I'm not just talking about a portfolio for your website. I mean, unless it's your best work, it doesn't get posted anywhere. If you only ever post your greatest photographs, that's what you become known for. People will think you only do great work. And each year you can add another 8 to 12 great photographs to your collection. As your skills improve, maybe you'll get that up to 15 or even 20 per year. Now, the downside of only creating 8 to 12 images per year is you won't have photos to post every day on Instagram or even every week. But you can do reposts from time to time, you can do reels, you can do stories and behind the scenes stuff. These are some photographers I follow on Instagram. You'll notice that every photograph they post looks amazing. And that's what they're known for, their amazing work. Which brings us back to you. If you're ready to get going on the next year and start your body of work, you should watch this video where I show how I did it, along with my initial idea and how I developed it into a concept. And if you're looking to sell your work at some point, you need to see how I launched and started selling my work online. That video will be up here when it's ready. Thanks so much for watching. Like, subscribe, or comment if you found any of this helpful. I'll see you next time.